So we have a question on how do you know the difference between being sad and being depressed? Because sometimes we're not sure if we're sad or we're really into depression, or if it's just a little depression, like there's levels of depression. So I guess that's the question.
With the ups and downs of life, with whatever challenges one is facing in life, or if life is not going as per what you have expected it to go, and you move into sadness. That is pretty understandable for everybody. If life is not throwing up those opportunities or not allowing you to meet those people whom you really want to meet, then you become sad. Depression is just more than that. Depression is where it is just impossible for you to get out of that sadness. It is like a vortex that has sucked you in so deeply that you really do not know how to get out of it. There is a little disinterest that has set in within you about life itself. You ask these questions: what am I doing with my life? What is happening in my life? Why is this happening? Why am I existing? When you have those thoughts creep in and you really do not have an option of getting out of those thoughts, that is, you're stuck in it, then you need to become more aware of where you are. Probably depression has set in.
Does time cure depression? Like sometimes people say, oh, I'm just going to sit in my room and in the darkness, and in a month, I'll talk to you.
You probably get more depressed at the end of the day. Time does not cure depression. See, what is happening in depression is your body, your mind, your consciousness, everything is leading you into that space where you are separating yourself from the rest of the world. Any suffering does that, and depression just doesn't give you an opportunity to go beyond yourself. It is totally being stuck with oneself, and on top of it, you're going to alienate yourself physically also from people. It's not going to help you. If you are depressed, if you are in that space of not able to step out of depression, it is time that you ask for help. And there is no shame around depression. One should not feel shame around depression. I think science or statistics is right now showing that every person gets depressed at least once in their lifetime. It is scientifically proven that it's a part of what happens, but just that if you have a support of your family, of your friends, and if you are in a position of asking help, there is a way to walk out of it. Coming back to your question, it is every possibility is if you allow yourself to be in depression for this much time, then more depressed you're going to be. So the more you are getting into depression, more difficult it is for you to get out of depression. So that is why it is important to recognize very early, because when you recognize it very early, it's easy to get help and to walk out of depression as well.
Should you push through what you're going through internally, like depression, when you're facing external pressure to keep going, or should you really just stay with it, stay with what's going inside of you and try to keep functioning?
Your question is, externally you continue to do what you're doing and internally just stay with what is going on. Is that your question?
Like you ignore what's going on inside and you just try to keep pushing.
No, once you ignore what is going on inside, it is like covering up a wound, throwing a carpet on it and saying it doesn't exist. That is the problem not only for depression, for any mental illness. People believe that as long as they're not bringing attention to it, it doesn't exist, but that's not true. It is getting deeper, it is becoming more, it is hurting you more, it is becoming more deeper rooted in your consciousness, and it takes more effort to get out of it. You cannot ignore depression, you cannot ignore your inner state of consciousness. That is, we can say, is the curse of the civilization itself, because we are so much focused on the external, on what you achieve, how much you can show off to others, and how your life is externally. So much of your internal life, your internal experience is ignored. And that itself is, we can call a disease in this current civilization. You cannot ignore what is happening within you.
So when I used to have depressions,
Okay.
and actually when a person is depressed, right, we can see it from the sign, the outside side, but what's actually happened within us when we are depressed, like internally, what's happening within our body when we are depressed?
What happens to the body?
Like within, internally.
Internally.
Yeah.
See, depression as such impacts your mind, your body, and your consciousness. Internally, if you have to put it in a nutshell, what happens to you is you begin to feel that you are alone. You begin to feel that there is nobody else in your experience of life itself. That is, you are with your family. You were depressed, but you had your family members. In that state of depression, you did not feel that you had a family. You did not feel that there were people in your life. You did not feel being part of nature. You did not feel being part of this world. It is a state where you totally disconnect yourself from everybody else around you. And you experience, there is a deep sense of loneliness, a sense of anxiety that goes hand in hand with depression. And that's because of your total disconnection with everything else. And it's a very, we can say it's a very miserable state to be in. And it's important that one recognizes to help oneself, and also people around should recognize that that person needs help. How did you experience your depression? How was your experience?
I felt like abandoned by everyone internally. Like I felt like darkness every day. I didn't feel like doing anything. It's just that I was abandoned by everyone. So I started to like stay a distance from everyone. I shut myself in a room every day. I'll just stay in a room. I don't even dare to go out of my room.
Did you have anxiety along with your depression?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
There's a lot of worried, anxious, like what people will look at me, like how people think of me. Because I used to be a top student at school. So suddenly there's that stress, probably some stress that accumulated inside me for my entire life. Then I had broke down mentally. And then suddenly I just said no to everyone, because I used to be a very cheerful person. I socialized with people, but suddenly I just said no to everyone. So I didn't go to school for like almost many months.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just that loneliness.
Loneliness.
Like you feel that you are not loved by everyone, even though my family's pour a lot of love towards me. Yeah, you just feel like you're alone. You just couldn't see everyone, anything. Like what you have said, the disconnected state, that's so real. Even the nature. Yeah, you just feel that you are the only one in this whole universe.
And then you're worried, you're anxious, you're sad. And the saddest part is you really don't know how to walk out of it.
Yes.
There is physically you feel very weak, and there is a lack of interest in anything. In anything, nothing interests you in life. That is pretty much.
Yeah, even though you want to like ask for help, but because it's kind of like a taboo in Malaysia, so people will think like only people who are very weak, they will get depression. So it makes me very hard for myself to even to accept that I was depressed at that time.
Okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know how to reach out to help, even though I know that I'm not alright inside it. Yeah, so that's my experience.
Very well put, because people need to hear this. People need to hear this is okay. It is okay to be depressed. And science is showing that you get depressed. Every human being gets depressed once in their lifetime. But what one needs is that support system to help you out of depression. The support system where you can ask for help, where you have all the wisdom, the teaching, the practice to help you get out of depression. That's what the world needs.
So is there a reason why people move into depression with no reason? I felt a situation where I have a wonderful family, not just immediate family, even the extended family. I have no problems, no financial problems, no relationship problems. But still there was a time where I moved into depression for no reason. I couldn't jot down the reason at all.
It's very much possible. It is not necessary just with a disappointment you move into sadness and get into depression, but it could be any stress or any disconnection, any experience of disconnection. Disconnection over here means not we're not talking about the physical disconnection. We're talking about you separating yourself from others, and it becomes an imprint in your consciousness. Like slowly you are living more and more in disconnection. That disconnection hurts. We are designed to experience beautiful connection. We are designed to experience that love, that togetherness. That is how we have evolved. Unfortunately, if there is one thinking that takes root in you, irrespective of your life situation, and you slowly build on that thinking, your brain, your mind, your consciousness, your body is getting acclimatized to that experience of disconnection, and slowly you get into it. And then for no reason you're sad, for no reason you feel lonely. Even she had a family. Even you had your family. But depression or loneliness is not because you do not have people in your life. You do have people in your life. It is more so because you yourself are alienating yourself from the rest. And that is the reason, that is the cause for depression itself. If you can address disconnection that you're experiencing, then you have a step out of depression. And how do you address that? It's like to see very clearly that it is this wall that you have built around yourself, that this connection that you're experiencing around people, around life itself, which is keeping you in that state of depression. If you're able to break through that wall, then you walk out of depression.
So after listening all your sharings, it seems to be a hope for people who are depressed to get out of depression. So is it possible for us to be like totally free from depression?
Oh, absolutely, yes. When people say that when you are depressed once, it is possible to fall back, it is like in simplest term, the neural activity of your brain is tuned to depression. But if you kind of get your mind strong enough, or if you're giving enough support to your mind in order to find depression, that's never going to come back. It's slowly, what we are trying to teach is, it's going to slowly erase the tendency to get depressed. So you don't need to fear it at all.
How can a person in depression know where to seek or what to seek with no knowledge about it?
See, when a body becomes diseased, you get to a doctor. One way of treating is probably fight the particular organism with an antibiotic, and let the medicine help you fight the infection, and you get cured. But there are many doctors who are right now not focusing on just giving an antibiotic into your body and allowing it to fight the virus or the bacteria. What they're doing is strengthening the entire immune system. They're making sure that your body is strong enough for you to fight that infection, which I feel is definitely a better way to deal with infections or disease itself, because of so many reasons. We don't need to get into that science. Similarly, if people who are listening to this, or people who are depressed, are able to kind of make it a practice in their lives, wise practices which I want to share, if they can make it as a practice in their lives, it is like creating a support system for their mind in order to fight depression. Just like how the doctors are working on the immune system in order to fight infection, these spiritual sadhanas or practices would be that support system that the mind gets in order to fight depression. That's what I would see people doing, because we need to kind of root it out of the consciousness. And we just can't kind of put a bandage around a wound and saying it's okay. We need to kind of take it out from the deepest realms of one's consciousness, and that needs to happen. And it would happen when they do these practices. We as a species, we have evolved as a tribe. If you're alone walking in nature, there is very little chance of you surviving in the wild. So we kind of lived in tribes, and we lived in such a way that probably every night we sat around the fire and shared stories. We shared stories of what happened to us during the day, what happened, or what animal did one encounter, or what bear or what fruit-bearing tree did they discover that particular day. That might have been the conversation which people kind of sat around the fire and they kind of shared their experience. And unfortunately, for today's lifestyle, we really don't give that time for actually being present and conversing with people or listening. And if we can make that a practice, to sit down, leave your phones away, and actually sit down and converse and listen, being totally present to what you're hearing from the others, that should be the first step. Because our body, our minds, our consciousness has evolved because of these conversations that we have had in the past. And we need to kind of consciously get back into the practice of doing that. The next is, this has to be a practice amidst people who are very intimate to you. A touch, a physical touch, a loving embrace, a hug. Scientifically, it produces oxytocin in your body. And if you have people, it could be your parents, it could be your child, it could be your partner or your grandparents, where you're able to have such an intimate relationship of like embracing, hugging, touching, holding, that is going to help you to a large extent. Then the other thing that I would definitely want people to do is to be in touch with nature. It allows the body to get into a place of harmony. And right now we have seen so much of science that nature heals. And unfortunately we have so much of nature, but we live so disconnected from nature. We don't really feel or take in being part of it. We feel ourselves so being separate from it. I know of a very young child who's like 4 years old and who was diagnosed with autism, level 2 autism. And unfortunately for most of the parents, it is about making sure that the child fits into the society at some point. So they kind of make sure that the child goes to school and, learns whatever is possible. But this child was unable to, this child is not able to be part of a school environment. So what we suggested to this child was, to the parents was, let the child be. Let not your objective for the child be to be able to fit into a school and thereby assuming that the child is going to fit into the society. The parents took it in very deeply. So they were living in a city when this whole thing was happening, and then they decided to move away from the city and move to a farmland where they decided to kind of allow the child to grow. They've been in the farm for almost 2 years now. The child has been part of nature, has been part of life over there, interacting with the goats, with the cows, with the ducks, with the hens. Child has calmed down a lot. All the tantrums have disappeared. The child is calmed down, physically has calmed down. The child has begun to speak. The child was not speaking until 4. Child has started to speak, is very comfortable, very happy. I'm sharing this for you to understand how important nature plays, the role the nature plays in healing one's mind and the body and the consciousness itself. It's incredible healing that happens. And to be part of nature is one important thing that I would want everybody to make it a part of their lifestyle. And even say if you're in a city and you really do not have an opportunity to be part of nature, make it a point to kind of observe the sun as it rises or observe the sun as it sets. You would slowly begin to move away from that huge wall of separation that you've constructed between you and nature and life itself, allowing you to have this experience of connection with nature. And it's incredibly healing. So it'll be good if anybody who is showing signs of depression or anybody who is depressed already, to kind of equip the mind, to give this support to the mind in order to fight depression. That's very essential. To be part of nature, to experience a friendly touch with your parents, with your siblings, or with your partner or your children. And then also to sit together and converse, to listen, to share, to feel that togetherness. That would be I would say, very important for not only people who are depressed, but it's also very important so that you don't get into depression at any point. And to have a mind that can be joyful and present, it's very essential.
How can we do that online? So we want to connect with people globally, and sometimes when you're depressed, you don't really want to talk to your mom or your sister or somebody close to you because you feel that judgment. So how can you create a community online and utilize social media as a tool rather than
a distraction
being the tool?
Yeah. So the first part of it, in terms of conversing and sharing and that experiencing togetherness, it can happen online, just to make that person feel comfortable where they are. See, today's society, what is happening is earlier, let's look at earlier times. Earlier times, you probably compared yourself with a sibling, or you compared yourself with another person in your neighborhood or your village. You compared with your cousins. But right now, your comparison, the extent of comparison is just gone beyond your home, your relatives, your family. It's gone beyond your village, your city. It's kind of, you're comparing yourself sitting over here. Probably right now you're sitting in India, but you're comparing yourself with somebody who is in, say, Australia, or somebody who is in California. That is what social media has done. And there is a total dislike for oneself because you're constantly feeling or living with a sense of lack. Say you're comparing your achievement with somebody else. You have achieved this much, but you tend to compare with somebody else who has more than you. Or you're comparing your appearance with somebody. You're comparing your lifestyle with somebody else's lifestyle. And constantly, unfortunately, unconsciously, you tend to live in a sense of lack all the time. And that could be a very big trigger for depression itself. So if you are kind of communicating with people across the globe, it is important that to show them or to let them know that they're beautiful as they are. To kind of appreciate this unique being, to kind of appreciate this person is so important. Comparison destroys that ability to appreciate oneself. And if you're able to bring awareness to it, to show them that they are very beautiful as they are, then you're helping them.
Beautiful. Yeah, sometimes I'll message somebody I know that's depressed just to give them good energy, and they won't reply. So it's a matter of just...
When you're depressed, actually you can speak with somebody who's depressed, they kind of construct a wall around themselves because they believe very strongly there is nobody who understands them. They believe very strongly that there is nobody who is there for them. Depression itself thrives only in that thinking. If not for that thinking, that I'm alone, I'm abandoned, I don't have anybody, if not for that thinking that they have constructed around themselves, depression doesn't survive. So if a friend of yours who's depressed and is not responding to you, just know that this is the thinking that is woven and that is stopping them from communicating back to you. But always let them know that you're there to help them, you're there to support them, and you will do anything it takes to kind of get beyond these boundaries. What did you do with your depression?
The silver lining in my depression is that I became a seeker.
Okay.
Started seeking that there is something more to life than what we all already have and live with. That's the silver line. As the saying goes, sometimes you fall down to learn to get up and walk. So that was my silver line.
One thing everybody should understand is one does not need to live in that space forever. There is a way out of it. And it is possible to walk out of it and also not to fall back again.